Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee and Football, presented by Rick Volvo and Austin Underground. I'm your host, Blake Monroe, where I'm joined each and every day by Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton. Happy Thanksgiving to you all. Tell us where you're checking in from, what you're drinking this morning, get your questions in. Even tell us your favorite Thanksgiving dish. We'll start there. See what the consensus is on that, guys. But let's jump over this morning to the availability report. It came out last night, and the main thing there, Quinn Ewers, of course, listed as probable. Curious to get y'all's thoughts.
Yeah, probable is interesting. It could have been questionable, right? Probable means you're probably looking at the starter on Saturday night in College Station. Any questions about the ankle injury? I wouldn't say they're gone, Jerry or Blake, or eliminated, but you know, Sark, I believe, in my opinion, this year, and Jerry, correct me, and Blake, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he's been pretty straightforward on these injury lists. He hasn't really played with them that much. He's got a couple questionables that then become probable on a Thursday, but by and large, Sark's been pretty straightforward. I looked down at the Aggie one, Jerry, and this one, Reuben Owens at questionable is clearly big for them. When we talked to Billy Lucci on Tuesday, he said Chase Basantes was expected to play. Basantes actually played last weekend a couple of series. He's a starting offensive guard for them. They probably will play him. Will Lee, one of their starting cornerbacks, a good player as well. But Jerry, you look at this. What do you think about yours? I think that's a huge one. And as far as before we go anywhere, though, I do want to say that if it's not mac and cheese or mashed potatoes for my favorite dish, I don't know what it is. Maybe a pie, maybe pumpkin pie or pecan pie. But anyways, back to the injury report, Jerry. Sorry.
Yeah, look, I think obviously Quinn wants to play, and Quinn's preparing to play. The question is, after he's hit the first time Saturday, can he play? That's where I'm going to be at with all of this. The first time he is hit, sacked, and somebody rolls on him, can he play?
Yeah.
I think all this talk is great right now. You know, I mean, what Pete Thamel said a couple days ago was pretty funny, actually, to me, which meant he's not going to be 100%. We're not kidding ourselves, and I don't think he's really going to be that close. But the question is, always comes down to with injuries like this, the first time you get hit, tackled, how do you get up after that? That's going to tell the story because he wants to play. He's wanted to play in this game his whole life. He grew up a Texas fan, right? The parents, Texas fans. I mean, so he's going to he wants to give it a go. I would say, look, and I'm not big on, hey, Arch gets first team reps this week because these guys are 13. We're in week 14. I mean, Arch could go play without a first team rep. I mean, all this talk's overrated on all this stuff. So I think Arch will be prepared to play if he has to play as well. But I think the whole thing with Quinn, the first time he gets hit and sacked, what's he look like after that? That's going to tell your story, not anything pregame and practice.
Hey, here's one, Jerry, that I've got to put up. I mean, I can't even believe I've never had this before, but this sounds delicious to me because I like spicy. Bevoholic, good morning. Love jalapeno cream corn.
Never had that one.
I have never had that, but I love spicy and I like cream. Dang. Where have I been living? I've been dealing with green bean casserole all my life. Hey, Jerry, this is a good one from Nick Davis. Before we move on, I want to involve the chat a little bit here this morning, given it's Thanksgiving a little bit more frequently and early. Morning from Virginia. Jerry, why are Florida and Arkansas good wins for A&M, but garbage wins for Texas nationally? Thankful for OTF. I'm gonna cut that off. I'll tell you why. Because Texas is 10-1 and A&M is 8-3. Texas is supposed to win all those games. A&M, and not that they weren't favorites in those games, but Texas is 10-1, A&M's 8-3. Texas is winning everything. So how do you separate a good win from a bad win when they're pretty much all wins?
Yeah, and look, SEC loves having Texas and Oklahoma in the conference.
Oh, yeah.
People that have covered the SEC for 2 decades don't necessarily love the idea of Texas winning the SEC in year 1, to be honest.
You think they like Texas and Oklahoma being in the conference until look, SEC offices are in Birmingham. They liked it until Oklahoma put the slap down on the Crimson Tide and took them out of college football playoff. I think it's kind of interesting, actually, how Alabama and Ole Miss are still lobbying to get into the college football playoff, even with 3 losses at this point, when clearly South Carolina may be the hottest team in the conference right now.
Right.
And so
I mean, look, that's the interesting thing with the playoffs. Like, if it comes down to, if we get to a point where 1 3-loss SEC team gets in, and let's just say South Carolina beats Clemson, Alabama and Ole Miss are going to say, well, we beat South Carolina early in the year. Okay, great. If you played them right now, would you beat them? Oklahoma says South Carolina would beat Alabama's butt.
Yes.
I mean, and so I hear your argument. No, you won the game. But if South Carolina beats Clemson, then that's a 6-game winning streak with some quality wins in there, including a rivalry win at the end of the year against a quality team.
Clemson. Yeah.
Yes. I don't think Ole Miss or Alabama, they wouldn't, for me, have an argument in that scenario.
Hey, look, the 2 biggest games this weekend actually are there's 3 actually. Texas A&M, that has national implications. Okay. South Carolina Clemson could have national implications. That's a rivalry game. USC Notre Dame, possible implications there as well. Because if the Trojans can somehow knock off the Irish, then that could put the Notre Dame playoff hopes at risk pretty quickly.
I like what Lane Kiffin does for college football, but he has bad argument with his team right now. Anybody in the chat ever looked down and had yellow socks? If you do, that means you pissed down your leg in a present. Ole Miss has yellow socks for Thanksgiving. And it's hard to get the stain out, man.
Hey, Jerry, we got some other topics going on right now in the chat, and talking about some recruiting stuff and a bunch of cream corn over cornbread, that sort of things. Let's say thank you real quick, if y'all don't mind, to our sponsor. Every Thursday morning, our friend Rick Vavro over at Austin Underground has been sponsoring us this entire year, and we appreciate him very, very much. Since 2004, Austin Underground has specialized in difficult underground commercial installations. The team's engineering background gives Austin Underground the ability to perform work other firms often consider just too risky. Rick and his team offer an end-to-end client experience, including seamless communication, budgeting, staffing, and top-notch trade partners. And most importantly, they produce solid quality work every time. That's Austin Underground. Rick is a UT grad and an engineering grad at UT, by the way, and a long-term serial entrepreneur. He's got something now that he's working on called the Lone Star Bar out in Jonestown, Texas. If you're out that way ever and stop by, make sure you say hi to Rick and his team at the Lone Star Bar as well. Thanks, Rick, for your sponsorship of On Texas Football.
Hey, MJF, we're starring your question. We're going to get to it later because that's a great point. We need to talk about that.
Okay. All right. Next piece, Javion Hilson, Jerry. Young man.
Yeah, we reported earlier in the week that Hilson go to A&M or would he go to Missouri this weekend? It's kind of been a bit of a fun ride watching his visit process. But it sounds like he may end up going to Missouri this weekend. I'm going to wait to see where he actually gets on a plane on this one. But he's made visits to Pitt, Syracuse, Michigan, and then it would be Missouri this weekend. I'm just here to tell you, in my opinion, after going by the school multiple times, by the way, he set the Coco sack record. I'm sure that's not a surprise. He's got about 30 on these highlights. If he doesn't have the sack record, they must have had Lawrence Taylor in high school. But if he doesn't show up in A&M, that's really good news for Texas, in my estimation. Look at the power, man. This kid loves football. He wants to kick people's butt, man, every snap. I think this guy's a very important piece for Texas to add at the end of the class. You can't have enough edge pass rushers, Bobby, especially ones with physicality too.
Play through contact, man. We talk about it all the time. Jerry, he was thought to be down to Texas and Texas A&M before. Now on consecutive weekends, he's taken a visit to Michigan last weekend. That was somewhat of a surprise. And now it looks like at least that he's going to go to Missouri this weekend when he initially scheduled Texas A&M for this weekend. You looked at – I wrote this morning on Texas Football about the fact, Jerry and Blake, that I don't know that I can remember as quiet a 2 days in the week leading up to signing day in the last, 20 years, 25. It is amazing to me that all of these players, these 6 or 7 players that Texas remains in on, this is the most news we have right now, is that Hilson may take another visit. It is eerily quiet out there right now, 6 days out from signing day.
I think it's because the calendar's all jacked up, right? Like the news before signing day is always, oh, where's Steve Sarkisian going this week, right? Who's he going to have an in-home visit with? Those days are over in recruiting, right? It's over. And so, your off weeks are where Sark gets in a helicopter and bounces around and goes to see some targets left, or the coaches are on the road. Kenny Baker may be at Myron Charles game or in Georgia or something. But now that the signing day is December 4th, you can't get out. You don't have enough days. First of all, they've changed it, but you can't get out. You're in more rivalry game week. Where are you going to go? The December 4th period really changed recruiting from a coverage standpoint and for a kid's standpoint, because the coaches just aren't on the road late in this process anymore. They're sitting there on the phone, not meeting with anybody in person. Families, kids, high school coaches, 7-on-7, whoever you meet with, no meetings to be had because you're in the end of the season. Then next Wednesday, boom, is decision day. And the other thing for Texas is all the guys that they're after, barring a change, are going to December 4th. Do you have the list of targets?
Yes.
Like, we can bring up real quick.
I will bring it up right now for you.
Justice Terry, 4th. Hilson, December 4th. Wiley, per people at Armwood, December 4th. Michael Terry, it's moved out, so it may as well be December 4th. When I was by there last Friday, they didn't have anything set up at the school, which leads you to 4th. These guys who are committed, Marshall and Fasusi, if they're gonna make a flip, it's probably going to be on December 4th. So I think that's where it's at with Texas right now, is your guys who are your top targets are all, it's already the 28th. You may as well wait until the 4th, and these schools set things up on the 4th for multiple signees and decisions that are going to be made. Sefner Armour will have 3 or 4 kids. They'll probably have a linebacker flip to Michigan. You'll have Kellen Wiley, who Texas leads for. They got some decisions coming up at these schools that have multiple players. And Kingme says kids in playoffs too. That's the other thing too. Is like this is the 3rd round of the playoffs. If you're in Florida or Texas, you're reaching big games. Coco's played for the state title, I think, the last 2 years. They're playing Newberry Friday night. That's a big game for Cocoa High. And you're getting to that point. By the way, later in this chat, I'm going to mention a kid that's having one of the best seasons as a running back in the history of the state of Texas. We need to get to you guys' questions, but later I want to mention a kid, and I'm not saying Texas is recruiting him, but the kid actually deserves some mention on the show that has a lot of people watching.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let's look at the line real quick for Saturday's game, if you don't mind. Blake, I know you got that ready for us.
I got it.
6.5. It opened. It's down to 5.5. Game time temperature expected to be around 57 degrees. Very little wind.
Not a lot of – yeah, that's good news. Not a lot.
Over under 49. So they think it's going to be relatively low scoring, Jerry. Something like a 28-21 type game, it looks like. At least that's what they thought out of the gate. Now the spread's down to 5.5. A&M getting some late money action right now.
Yeah, I predicted 27-23 Texas.
Oh, you've done your prediction now?
Yeah, I did on a show earlier this week on a different a YouTube show. They asked me for my prediction, and I went 27-23 Texas.
Why didn't you go 27-25 just to keep it going?
Yeah. So, but yeah, this is again. I hope I'm totally wrong with my preseason prediction. Everybody likes to always be right. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, yeah. I look. I thought Texas going into the season would be 10-2 as well, and in the college football playoffs. You know, I'd be happily wrong by one game. Again, I picked 10-2 last year too. I think, or did I pick 11-1? I can't remember.
Josie's referencing my preseason prediction show when I said Texas 10-2 with losses to Georgia and A&M.
He hasn't let you live it down. That's for sure.
He shouldn't let me live it down. I mean, I hope I'm not correct. I'll say that.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Hey, what do y'all think of that, though, Blake? And I want to ask you this question, Blake. You're sitting there looking at these teams from that viewpoint of watching them on TV a bunch. Your thoughts on Texas A&M, and that sort of thing?
Man, I hope that Jerry's wrong as well, obviously. But I think it's going to be very, very close. I mean, a rivalry game coming back that hasn't been played in over a decade. And a lot of these players and new students are going to, find out just what this game's about. But, man, I like Texas in this one. I'm going to say 31-24.
Wow. So y'all are both expecting A&M to score in the 20s, which is kind of surprising to me.
I'm not sure it's offensive points.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair.
I see a lot of, or not a lot, but I see a couple of short field sort situations, that type of deal. Kind of.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I want to add this. Something I think that's going to happen is it's going to be extraordinarily physical.
Yeah.
A&M is going to try to make Texas play this in a phone booth by being extraordinarily physical. That is going to be their calling card. You got to remember, Texas can't handle the physicality week in, week out of the SEC, right? That was what everybody said going into Texas and Oklahoma joining the conference, coming in from the Big 12. So I think if I had to guess, I think we're going to see some lead plays and some inside zone from A&M and really try to just get bare knuckle nasty with the Longhorns on Saturday. I really believe that. So Texas got to be ready, and they've got to match it, if not exceed it. And I will say one thing. This is from Frank Medina. I don't think you have to worry about the physicality of Anthony Hill on Saturday. Thoughts on how big a game Anthony Hill will have after the Butkus snub. Look, this game is tailor-made for a guy like Anthony Hill to make big plays, because big-time players make big-time plays in big games, guys. They just do. And Anthony Hill, in my opinion, is a disruptor. And this is why he's probably one of the highest NIL paid players at Texas. This is why he was so heavily recruited and a 5-star. These types of games are why you want people like Anthony Hill, part of the reason why you want them on your team and not playing for the other team. He was obviously previously committed to Texas A&M before signing with the Longhorns.
Hey, this would be a good time to bring up this MJF's question earlier.
Go ahead.
Because I think I 100% agree with this. Texas A&M doesn't have the linebackers to get out to our screen game like Georgia did. Do you agree? Yeah, look, for me, that's what makes Georgia tough. They're good up front, but they're not dominant like 2021, 2022, and they had 4 or 5 first-round draft picks on the front. They're not those guys. But their linebackers, combined with their mid-round picks on the defensive front, make them really good. And they have a guy like Jalen Walker you can move around to do a lot of things with. But Georgia could close the gaps and angles really quickly on the perimeter with their linebackers. And I think they're better backers than A&M. No question.
Yeah, I think they're better. I will say Scooby Williams for A&M can run well enough to be effective. Torian York does not run great. Good player, heart and soul of that defense to some level is my understanding. He's one of those guys that's a team clubhouse leader, but he would not match up well with Trey Wisner or Jaden Blue in space. He just wouldn't. Now, how do you isolate him? I don't know. Maybe A&M doesn't play him as much on Saturday. I don't think I would if I were A&M, to be honest. So we'll see. Here's another one, another matchup that I want to put up here for you guys to think. So Jason Davis, 1972. Texas A&M lacks speed in the back seven. Texas can take advantage of that. They have had issues in the secondary this year. There's no two ways about that. They've been very what's the right word?
They've had some safety bus coverage for sure.
Safety bus, but susceptible is the right word to big passing games. One of the matchups that I'm actually looking forward to. A&M has a really good freshman corner named Des Ricks. I'm wondering if we don't see a little Ryan Wingo versus Des Ricks on Saturday. Look, Ryan Wingo can really, really run, guys. And David Rawls says that I expect one big play from Wingo, a Sark special. I kind of do too. He's so big. He runs so well. Texas hasn't done much with him the last couple of games. I don't know if that's on purpose or just situational because of Quinn or whoever, but he was open downfield again against Kentucky. Quinn just didn't hit him, and he was interfered with while doing so. So we'll see how that goes, but I'm a big believer in Ryan Wingo against a guy like Des Ricks. Those are two future possible first-round picks, by the way, going at each other just as true freshmen. First game back in a rivalry like this. It's one to watch for me.
Hey, I wanted to Jason Washington says happy Thanksgiving all. I want to say happy Thanksgiving to Jason, but also happy early birthday in case we don't catch you tomorrow when we're on Jason's birthdays this weekend. So happy birthday to you, Jason.
Safe trip to Jordan, his son, down there for the game this weekend as well in College Station.
Yep, definitely.
Hey, Jason, where the Cooper Manning big cowboy hat went on?
And then send us a picture.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's jump over to some questions and super chats. And Mike Gosnell says, happy Thanksgiving. Down the road, do you see Texas giving Mac Brown a statue in front of DKR? To me, he's earned it despite how he's ended his tenure.
It's an interesting question.
I know that there are people that would say, yes, absolutely, unequivocally, we need to do that. And I know there are few that would say no to that because in part of how it ended.
Yeah.
What do I think? Like, if you're just asking me, the answer is yes. Because I think the good far outweighed the bad, and no man is perfect. And that's how I feel. So, yes, do I know Mac personally? And is that maybe biasing my opinion? Perhaps. I'll freely admit that. But I think that he certainly did more good to reestablish Texas as a national power. And that overwhelms and overrides some things that may have happened on the way out. That's just my personal opinion. Some people are going to say, oh, no, that, you can't. Look, none of us are perfect, Jerry, Blake, not a single one of us. And sometimes these guys get judged too harshly about small things or individual things when you're not looking at the overriding body of his work as a whole. And so I do think he deserves one.
Yeah, I think great representative for university as well. I mean, I really believe that. And look, I in my years doing this, I've never seen a more popular coach when you go around the high schools and you're talking to coaches. I mean, he did a lot of positive work at the University of Texas. The national championship, obviously 7 top 10 poll finishes, played for the other natty. I mean, it's always going to be arguable if Colt didn't get hurt. Will he have 2, right? If they got in 2008, could they have beat Florida? There's always going to be the what ifs games around him. So it's easy to say, hey, man, he could have had 2 titles, but he won a national title at Texas. It's been a long time, and it's been a long time since now.
Yeah.
And on a somewhat related note, this next super chat from Juan. Thank you, Juan. Who do you like for the North Carolina job?
I'm hearing a lot of Troy Sumrall at Tulane. Who was at Troy last year and is tearing it up at Tulane. I'm hearing that name a lot, but I'm not saying I'm right.
I had heard, and I could be wrong. Is it the Detroit Lions offensive coordinator, a UNC grad, and played at UNC? But the problem with hiring an NFL assistant right now, especially one that's going to fight for the Super Bowl like the Lions are, is you're not going to get him until later. Maybe you announce the hire, but don't get him until later. You're going to lose an entire recruiting class. Portal. And most likely an entire portal class.
All those kids will leave that are good players there because they're not going to know who their coach is, or they're not going to be able. That's I watch the guy from Tulane, I think, but we'll see. Okay. I'm not football scoop. I'm not claiming to be, but I have.
Well, good point though. I mean, that would be 2 consecutive years where Tulane loses its guy because Willie Fritz is now at Houston from last year. If they lose him to North Carolina, that's a rebuild at Tulane that's going to go on too.
Yeah.
And they've been good. I mean, Fritz turned that program around.
They're in the playoff hunt right now.
Yeah.
Side shot.
Yeah. All right, guys, before we move on and get to some more questions here, first, Bobby, I'm going to let you tell everyone out there about Hargrove Roofing.
Hargrove Roofing, as Stevie Lee says, know who's on your roof. Thank you very much to our friends over at Hargrove Roofing with offices all over Louisiana and Arkansas. And, of course, Texas, including Austin. Coach Abernathy, the lead guy there in Austin. Hargrove Roofing will take care of all of your roofing needs, plus they're Longhorn friendly with partners like kicker Bert Auburn and former defensive tackle Stevie Lee, who joins us on every Monday afternoon on the Winning Drive. They are the most pro burnt orange roofing company out there. Again, that's Hargrove Roofing. Call them today for a free roof inspection. Hargrove Roofing, know who's on your roof. 512-645-3202.
Thank you for that, Bobby. And I also need to let everyone out there know about Tile, if I can find the thing there. There we go. The holidays are here, guys. Today, obviously, Thanksgiving. And before we know it, it's going to be Christmas. And while it's the most wonderful time of the year, it also presents a ton of challenges. Whether you're staying at home or traveling, it's busy season, and keeping track of what matters most to you this season can sometimes feel a little bit more hectic than merry. So stress less by stocking up with Life 360's Tile trackers. When you're worried about your family's safety or something goes missing, just use the Tile app. And that's what I use it for when something goes missing, especially my car keys. I cannot keep up. Well, my kid and wife cannot keep up with them. But the good news is with Tile, I don't have to worry. I just ring my Tile when they go missing, or I can even track their location on a map. You can also add Tile trackers to your Life 360 and see your family and all your family stuff in one spot. So family-proof your family with Life 360's Tile trackers. Visit tile.com and use promo code ONTEXAS to get 15% off. That's tile.com, promo code ONTEXAS for 15% off.
I'm going to hit this one real quick. Zane Petty, he asked earlier too. How are we looking for Myron and Jamie French? Need to keep our Florida guys and add 2 more. Look, I've been wrong before. I feel good about those guys. Obviously, Florida will not give up on Myron Charles at all, and they shouldn't. Honestly, he's top 50 level kid in the country, top 60 level kid in the country at defensive line. They should go all the way to December, the night of midnight on December 3rd for that one, or even longer. Jamie French, look, Dallas Wilson's on the table for Florida. I think they're really just hoping to get one guy. But I feel good about French and Texas. I've been wrong before, and that one would surprise me.
And before we get to our next one, Locking Horns, I just want to say we got your super chat, but no question or comment attached to it. If you'll send it regular, we will fix that up for you. And let's go to this one from Tube in Texas. He says, happy Thanksgiving. The best dessert, green stuff. Hook 'em.
Green stuff. Is that like a Jell-O salad? Or are you talking about something else? Like a left-handed cigarette? I gotta wonder about you. I don't know. What is your favorite dessert on Thanksgiving? My wife's over there banging around in the kitchen while we're doing this thing. What is y'all's favorite dessert on Thanksgiving, Blake and Jerry? Y'all have one?
I don't have one.
Banana pudding.
Jerry, as big a sweet tooth as you have, you don't have one.
I would just assume go get a lemon nothing bunt cake and just throw that on the side of the table and eat it.
Lemon.
And you're a banana pudding, Blake?
Banana pudding. I do love nothing bunt cakes, Jerry, so that's a good call, but not the lemon ones. The confetti ones are my favorite. But yeah, banana pudding.
You like it with vanilla wafers or without?
I like a lot of vanilla wafers and very little bananas.
Oh, okay. You like the crunch then?
Yes.
I got you. I got you. Pecan pie or pumpkin pie for me? I'm a big pecan pie guy. Love it. Gary is humble pie.
I like it.
Oh man. All right, guys. More super chats here. This one from Jason Hablinski. Thank you, Jason. As always, he says, Jerry, do you think it was a mistake to not go in on more elite tackles? Maybe they thought they would have went out on Fasusi, but we really needed to add an elite tackle prospect, or we'll have to go hard in the portal.
I don't think Texas is going in the portal on the offensive line. I think what it does tell you is they like the young kids, one. And two, there's some tremendous guys in 2026 as well. And you have to see what Nick Brooks, you have to give Nick Brooks some time to see what he develops. Nick Brooks can play tackle. We're going to have to see how effectively. But I think it tells you Texas likes their young kids at tackle, and that 2026, really good. I mean, you're in good position for a couple of those guys that they really like in 26. I would be surprised if Texas goes to the portal.
Hey, Jerry, you talk about young tackles at Texas. Let's this is a good time because not a lot of news breaking today with Thanksgiving. It's a good time to have some broader conversations. Trevor Gooseby and Brandon Baker are backup tackles at this point. Who are they expected to compete with this spring, not including any of the incoming recruits? So, I mean, a Nick Brooks or whatever. Who are they really expected to compete with this spring?
Yeah, that's what's going to be the interesting question, right? Is where do they play a couple of these freshmen in their developmental years? Where is it Jaden Chapman? I mean, does anybody portal out? Who comes back? And I think we're sleeping probably on Malik Ogbo at this point a little bit. Because he's having another year of development, and he is an athlete. He can play that position athletically. And I think he's getting his weight right back in that 300, 310 range again, or will be by late spring or August. I think we may be sleeping on Ogbo a little bit in what Texas thinks of him.
At tackle.
Yeah.
Because Andre Kojo is a name that I thought you might put out there too.
A backup right tackle. Yeah.
Yeah. So the position pieces would be Trevor Gooseby, Brandon Baker, Jaden Chapman if he doesn't swing into guard, and maybe Malik Ogbo and Andre Kojo. Those are the possibilities, I guess. That makes sense. Just writing all those down.
Yeah. I look, and I'm not saying 100%. Not very few things are 100%. Texas just hasn't shown that they want to go to the portal for OL. They want to develop these guys from high school.
Yeah, no proclivity to go to the and they could have.
Yeah.
Let's think back to this. I mean, when that Kelvin Banks, Cam Williams, DJ Campbell, Cole Hudson class, you don't think that they weren't being told that they should go to the portal and have some older kids come in? They have shown true reluctance in that category. It's a good thought. Bryant Flory asking about Baker. Has he undergone sufficient development yet? He just got there. His body is already taking a different shape. Even from earlier from spring ball until now, I can tell you, because he came in, I can't remember what game, maybe Florida. He came in and played a little bit. His body shape is starting to look more like a college football player. So we'll see what that looks like. But I think his body shape looks really good.
By the way, somebody in the chat said Lincoln Riley could replace Mac Brown. That would be the most Lincoln Riley thing ever, by the way.
Lincoln Riley to North Carolina?
I mean, don't want to be in the SEC. I'll head west. Not going well. That pretty much saying I got to get out before they get me if he left USC for North Carolina.
You know who would be a good hire maybe for North Carolina is his brother, Garrett Riley.
Yeah.
Who's already over at Clemson as the offense coordinator, has helped turn that offense around. And I think Garrett Riley might be a really good hire, actually. Knows the conference.
Yeah.
But if Mac has any input there, they'll go with a proven coach. They'll go with someone that's been a head coach before.
Yeah.
So Football Scoop is saying Matt Campbell.
Oh, wow. That'd be a hellacious
one. Ryan Silverfield at Memphis could be another one.
coach.
So those are and then Jeff Munkin from Army.
Munkin. Yeah. Dude, if Matt Campbell would be an unbelievable hire at North Carolina.
He's not going to North Carolina, dude. He's not going to. Could have gone to Michigan.
I know.
And another one they said that Arthur Smith, the former Falcons head coach and current Steelers offensive coordinator, might have an interest in the position as well.
Arthur Smith would be interesting, and I'll tell you why.
NIL?
Yeah, NIL. His dad is Fred Smith, the chairman, I think, of FedEx and founder of
that.
FedEx.
So if you're North Carolina, that's who you hire.
I think your NIL problems go away pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but like, look, but Matt Campbell's interesting because, Bobby, he doesn't seem like the star chaser guy, right? I mean like the brightest stars in coaching. He seems to be at a place that he can be comfortable. He seems to be wired a little different, man. He's turned down some really good jobs.
He's that would be interviewing for good jobs.
Right. That would be a home run hire for North Carolina.
Yeah, he's not going to North Carolina.
And two other guys that they mentioned real quick before we move on. Jamie Chadwell out of Liberty has expressed interest, and along with Barry Odom out of UNLV.
Barry, I think you need to stay at UNLV, bro, because I think it's really hard to win as a defensive head coach unless you have an edge in recruiting at a blue chip school. I just really
we got a super chat here that I want to jump to the front of the line. Slick Rick, thank you so much. Happy Thanksgiving to you. He says Jerry drives across the country to see updates on recruits. If that's not passion, I don't know what is. Bobby, thanks for being the pioneer and backbone on anything Texas football, and Blake, the baseball guru. Hope Colt is feeling better. He's doing good, by the way. Happy Thanksgiving, OTF family.
Slick Rick, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Jerry, you and I talked about this morning, Blake. Look, we are all thankful that we have a platform that you guys join us on every day or whenever you get an opportunity to. I mean, that we know we put out a lot of content, so it's hard to get to everything. But we enjoy what we do, and part of that enjoyment is actually reading super chats or regular questions and just getting to know more people. We go to Jerry and I love it. We go to a football game and we start talking to people from all different parts of Texas, or even from Phoenix, or where was the person from Virginia Beach that came in for a game. It just doesn't matter because we all have one thing in common, and that's the Texas Longhorns. So it's a lot of fun. It's been a great ride. Thank you, Slick Rick, for the super chat, and you're part of that, Slick Rick. Just to be honest.
Bobby, you said say something we're truly thankful for, and this super chat just got me. Cars and planes. I couldn't imagine doing this profession on a horse. Could you?
Yeah. Did you used to have to do it in the Pony Express?
I mean, can you imagine getting on your horse and going from state to state?
I want to see you ride a horse, actually.
I mean,
Jerry, did you have one too many cocktails last night?
I know.
Because you're in rare form this morning.
That's not me.
We got another super chat, and thank you again, Slick Rick. But thank you, John Campbell. He says, "Happy Thanksgiving, Blake. I'm thankful that your kiddo is on the road to a full recovery." John, I am very thankful as well, and thank you again. But like I said, Colt is doing good. So long road ahead, but he's definitely on schedule. But with John's super chat, guys, I want to ask y'all, what are y'all thankful for? And then I'll circle back to mine, but y'all start.
I think Jerry's thankful for cars and planes.
Transportation.
That's just unbelievable. Literally thankful for a couple of things. About a year ago now is when I decided to make a move away from a previous situation and into a new one. And I did it because I wanted to be able to find my own way of sorts, if that makes sense, and be able to do what I wanted to do and how I saw things moving forward. And I'm really grateful that people helped us do that. There was a time where Jerry couldn't join us for a couple of months. And so it was me and Blake and CJ doing that. When Jerry was finally able to come back, just thankful for that, and thankful for people that stuck with us through all of that. That's one thing for sure. But then on a personal level, the support of my wife, and she joins this chat all this time. She is my she's my rock around here, and I appreciate her very much. And you know, just very thankful for our relationship and our family's relationship throughout both sets of grandparents, our kids, etc. Everyone's healthy and happy. So very happy about that and thankful.
Jerry, anything besides planes?
Oh, cars.
Transportation.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, just there's so many things. I mean, you look, it's my parents are in their are living into the 80s, close to the 80s. That's always, you're always thankful for that, because you know, I hear too much. I haven't been through that with losing parents young. My sister's got a great family, healthy. He's moved to London, back to Princeton. So you know, kids are doing well. You know, it's all that. She has an 18-year-old that's freshman in college. I do too, and that they're able to have gotten to that point and haven't messed up, and they're still rolling right along. So, but you know, it's been good, because I haven't had to deal with losing a parent young, which I know a lot of people have on this chat and in friends and other family members. But that they're still living. And Dad's a huge Texas fan. He tunes in all the time, and a former coach, and he'll tell you if he doesn't like the blocking scheme. I'll tell you that. All offensive coordinator.
Why did they slide protect, Jerry? Why?
Well,
hey, can I take a second to talk about the straight Jesuit running back real quick?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
I think somebody brought this kid up in the chat, and so look, when you cover,
wait, Jerry. Hey, Blake, could you try to bring up some film of him?
John Herbert, straight Jesuit. And sometimes, you know, look, this is not he doesn't have any offers right now. But part of what makes this job fun, and some people have brought him up before. I was sitting in I was at North Shore High yesterday, by the way. Nothing's going on with Devin Sanchez, but they have a freshman D tackle that watch the hell out if he develops in a sophomore receiver. It's North Shore. They got guys. And junior safety, I think maybe an outside rush linebacker one day that Texas is looking at, Calicut. But this kid has, Jason Washington. He's seen him. Look, if you live in the Houston area, this is interesting. This kid's put up 3,365 yards in 12 games. Guys, they play Kingwood, and it's a toss-up game. If they beat Kingwood and he goes for 150, 200, which he's averaging damn near 300 rushing yards a game. He's 275 this year. He's going to end up with a top 7 season in the history of high school football in rushing yards. And I don't know what's going to happen with his recruitment, but I just wanted to take a second, because people have talked about this kid on the chat before, to just give the kid a shout out and say, one hell of a year, man. I mean, he had 400 yards in a playoff game against Katie Tompkins 2 weeks ago. And he had 290 plus over 15 or 20 receiving yards against Euless Trinity. He went over 300 all-purpose yards against Euless Trinity. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with his recruitment. I can't predict it. He'll be a D1 football player somewhere, but just to have that type of season's unbelievable. I mean, unbelievable.
I think it's great to highlight him also, because it's high school football season in Texas right now, Jerry.
Yeah.
And he's just one guy that's having a great season. We all know that it's getting ready to be that time of year where high school football kind of takes seniors center stage. He'll have them all over at Jerry World in a few weeks here. And so it's good to acknowledge that, because we do get lost in college football. And obviously this is a Texas Longhorns channel, but I know so many Texas football fans are also genuine Texas high school football fans of some sort, maybe their own school or former school or whatever. And hats off to this young man and the year he's having. But he's really indicative of an entire high school football scene that I think is part of the culture of Texas as well.
And I wanted to say this. So if somebody asked his name, it's John Herbert. But the interesting thing there is, because Arizona State's now coming into the picture, and they have a running back, Cam Scatabo, who put up huge numbers in Northern California, literally had no D1 offer. He ends up at Sac State. And now he put on 20 pounds. Scatabo's like 220, 225 now. Herbert's probably 190-ish. So he's going to have to stack some weight. But Scatabo is going to play in the NFL. 0 offers coming out of high school, D1. 0. It took 2 years of putting up big numbers at Sac State for somebody to take a chance on him. And now Kenny Dillingham and those guys took a chance on him, and they're two wins away from being in the playoffs with that kid as the best player on their team. So I just wanted to give this kid a shout out, straight Jesuit. So if you're in the Houston area, you want to see a guy running for records, man, this is your guy against Kingwood this week.
Gus wants to know, what's his name again? Tell him one more time, Jerry.
John Herbert. He's a junior. So this kid's going to have a chance to put up like 6,500 yards in 2 years. Yes, he's got a good offensive line, good scheme, by the way.
I was going to say, you don't run for that many yards unless your coach – you can be Superman.
Yeah.
You don't run for that many yards unless your coach is doing a really, really good job.
Yeah. Hey, and by the way, in high school football nowadays, because everything's so spread, and especially in Texas, if you can come with a well-executed power run game, you have a huge advantage if you have the talent.
That's why Colin Klein was hired at A&M, by the way.
Yeah.
It wasn't his passing scheme. It was his run scheme as offense coordinator for the Aggies.
All right. Let's see here. We got more super chats, a lot of questions coming in here. And I'm going to start with this one from Josh. And he says, Hayden Connor's about to have a monster game. He can't let his wife have bragging rights forever, which this reminds me.
Ooh.
My wife, Krista, she went to A&M. She roots for Texas, but she went to A&M. Well, she went and got her nails done the other day, or yesterday, the day before. Guess what color she came home with? Maroon. So if Texas loses, I told her it's completely 100% her fault. But I just wanted everyone to know that it will be her fault if Texas loses.
That just gave me an idea. If A&M beats Texas, Blake has to do the show with maroon fingernails.
Oh,
I already said I'd eat a corn dog with mayonnaise. What more do you want from
Well, there's a win and the lose part of it.
It's Bobby's turn to do something.
No. I don't. Hey, I have got to ask this. Hayden Connor says he can't let his wife have bragging rights. Is he married to an Aggie?
Yes.
But
Or engaged. I think they got married, but definitely engaged.
Okay. Hayden, I hope he does have a monster game. Those guys up front, in particular, between those 5 offensive linemen, are going to have their work cut out for them. They're going to have to literally put they're going to have to be the difference in this game. They're going to have to at least nullify A&M's kind of advantage there, or thought advantage. Because if they can, then they should have enough time to take on the A&M secondary, right? That's the big thing. If Texas can give Quinn or whoever enough time to pass, Texas should be open against A&M. But they got to do that.
Yeah.
And Hayden Connor's a piece of that. I think Jake Majors is going to be a big piece of that, particularly his line calls, by the way, Jerry, and identifying. I'm also, just a sidetrack note about offensive line. Have y'all noticed that Sark's not doing as many condensed splits now? Ever since Quinn got really buffaloed by Georgia, and then I think he did a little bit of that against Vanderbilt, and even Vanderbilt had some success getting to Quinn. Sark's gone away from the large amount of squeeze splits that he was having with those H-backs and or slot receivers. So I don't expect them to break it out all of a sudden against A&M, because the A&M will then just be able to deceive their pass rush.
All right, Bevo Holic with the super chat. Bevo Holic says, "Happy Thanksgiving. As a degenerate Longhorns fan, I'm very thankful for OTF. Can't get enough recruiting talk from Jerry and CJ. Texas wins 31-17 and corn dogs and mayo for all." And then he added, especially for Bobby Burton.
Yes, dude. This is going to be an epic Monday if Texas wins Saturday.
Yeah, I did not agree to this.
Yes, you did.
Your wife agreed for you.
I did not.
Jenny emailed me and said you agreed to it.
And she said in the chat that you would agree to it.
Hey, Blake, real quick on recruiting. Bring up the prospects again, the 6 remaining guys. I'm going to spell this one out one more time for the class ranking. So Texas is 4, maybe 5 right now. I think they're 4. So, again, I just want to throw out the scenarios. Michael Terry, Kellen Wiley get you to 2. I think 2/3, depending on where Justice Terry and Naeem offered. If both those guys end up at Auburn, Auburn's going to jump. We'll see. I think Texas considers Georgia the competition for Terry, the team to beat, not Auburn. But we're in the NIL day and age, and Auburn has a wonderful class at 5 and 6. So if you get Hilson, Terry, and Wiley, I think you're locked into 2. May even dabble at the 1 spot. It's going to be decimals or a point. Again, depending on Justice Terry's recruitment. If Texas gets 4 of these 6, they're going to finish number 1. That's really what it comes down to for the recruiting class rankings guys that like that stuff. The other thing would be, Bobby, is Texas gets Kellen Wiley. I think they've done a field needs at linebacker. That would be 3, and Bo Barnes is a stud. Jonathan Cunningham's got a lot of the Ty Anthony Smith frame and ability. And I'm not saying he's going to be as instinctive a player. That's going to have to play out. But a Kellen Wiley, that would give them a really good linebacker class. If you got Hilson, you may have the best edge class in the country. If you got one more D lineman, that would make it a huge upset win over a kid that's probably Georgia leaning and a kid that's committed to Auburn. Your D line class wouldn't probably be number 1 in the country, but it would be top 3 at that point in time. There's some tremendous D line class is in the country, and I think a couple of them are underrated. And obviously, Michael Terry gives you one of the best athletes and kind of offensive jumbo toys for a coach in the country if you get him. And then Fasusi, that's just a different game.
Hey, this was actually, I thought, a good follow-up question to that, Jerry. Ivory Martin says, "Do we expect all of our commits to sign on December 4th?
I do, as everything I've heard so far. I mean, I do. Now, it could be the 4th, 5th, or 6th, depending on if the team's in the playoffs, what the coach kind of wants to do, with that. But a majority of these guys are early enrollees. 2 guys I was told yesterday, and it was kind of in the balance, aren't going to be early enrollees, is Devin and Jordan Coleman at Cedar Hill. I don't think they're going to be. I don't think Mbaktu is going to be. Zella 6 obviously can't be because he just reclassed from 26 to 25. So I think those are 4 guys for sure that aren't going to be early enrollees in the class. But yeah, I think everything I'm hearing right now is December 4th. There might be one that bumps to the 5th because of a team.
It's actually, that's a good question because, Jerry, we hadn't even talked about that. Yeah. That's a good perceptive question from Ivory there, because there usually or typically is 1 or 2 stragglers. Like, remember last year, Ryan Wingo didn't sign until like 11 o'clock in the morning. And people are like, "What's going on?" By the way, we'll have some signing day coverage for you guys. Jerry and Blake and I are going to wake up really early. Actually, we're just going to be on air instead of we'll already be awake at this time. But we're going to try to get going no later than 7 a.m. on National Signing Day for you guys, because it will be wall-to-wall coverage, tracking when the players sign, etc.
It'll be interesting to see how the universities release this year. Because it's always been national letter of intent, faxed in or emailed, whatever they do now. And then the university immediately releases that. It's going to be interesting to see how they release news nowadays, since there's no national letter of intent.
I'll ask John Bianco, SID, and Thomas Stepp, football SID, what their plans are for that. So I'll at least have a heads up for everyone too.
All right.
Somebody asked how many highs are left. 3, but only 2 can sign in December.
I like how you always say that and then take a drink. See,
take a bath if I'm
you're
wrong.
almost trying to drink to bite your tongue, basically.
I'm going to take a bath if I'm wrong.
All right, Jay Lee with the super chat. Thank you, Jay. If you look at the A&M schedule, their Notre Dame game screwed them. Imagine if they were 9-2. We could be in this exact same situation next year playing Ohio State.
Well, A&M should have won the game. I mean, look, I know people are discounting the Texas win at Michigan now, but Texas put them into that tailspin. I mean, there's a difference when Texas is the one that pierced the veil, right? They showed that Michigan may not be an elite program, right? So I just disagree that people discount the Texas win over Michigan. They went to Michigan. A&M had Notre Dame at home. There's a fundamental difference, in my opinion. Hey, Laguna Beach Longhorn, this was a good one. If y'all didn't read this, by the way, and we mentioned it in State of the Program yesterday, thank you guys for sharing the article written by CJ Baxter. What an amazing article and a very special young man. Jerry, you and I talked about this. If y'all have not read this,
I'm going to put it in the chat.
Okay, perfect. Link it up there so everybody gets a chance. It's from the Players Tribune. The Players Tribune is essentially a site that allows players to write their own stories. They edit them and do all the nice things to make sure they're nice and tightly written articles. But if you haven't read it, you should definitely go read it. Jerry, you talked a lot about it, during the State of the Program. CJ Baxter is one of those guys that you want leading your football team, period. Just from the tone and tenor of that, Texas and others on the Texas team, it's telling you, if anybody's got their head on right, it's that dude, because he listens to other people and then he puts it into action. And that is, you can't ask more from a young person. And he has some integrity to him. What were your thoughts, Jerry? Because you had some personal relationship with them during the recruiting process.
One of my favorite kids I've covered, and you have to separate that from the player, right? But as a kid, as a young man, he's just unbelievable. It's, I've told the story many times, but Bobby, I went to Edgewater, and it was for practice his senior year, and he was out with a minor hamstring. Look, they sat him out 5 games. He could have played after a couple, but they knew they were going to win the games. They were trying to save him for the playoffs get him close to 100% or have him 100%. But I pulled up the practice. I was like, well, I'll talk to him. He'll probably be chilling on the sidelines while this team's practicing. We can just catch up. This is when all the Florida State visits were happening. I knew that Texas was fine on it, but, still wanted to make sure, double check, do my homework. And I didn't get a chance to talk to him, but until after practice, a little bit before, but after practice was for entire 2-hour practice. He was standing on the field in the middle of the field with his coaches, put his head in every offensive huddle, was helping the backup running back, talking him through plays, cheering on, being a leader of his team. And I was like, I remember getting on the live stream. I was like, this is a can't miss player. I mean, you don't see 5-star kids that do that very often. I mean, so that just took that kid to another level in a profession that I've been in a while. I was like, that's like next level stuff from a kid. That's a kid who he's got leadership. He understands what all this is about. That's a guy who wants to maximize his talent in every single way. And so was it a surprise, Bobby, that he came in and picked up the system in pass pro immediately, which is hard for freshman running backs to do? Not for us, because we saw what was coming with that kid in terms of football intelligence, understanding what all this is about, and maximizing his talent. And I hope he comes back. He had a tough knee injury. Yep, Jason Washington, family's awesome as well. I hope he comes back from this injury close to 100%, because he had a serious one. Brett Robin talked about it the other day.
Hey, real quick, guys. Bobby, I just wanted to bring this up. Jay Lee, going back to his previous super chat, he said that he's saying the Ohio State game will screw us in the end if Texas loses next year.
Maybe, but also you got to remember that Texas is going on the road there. So the Texas will be I don't know if Texas will be favored or not in that game, because Ohio State loses a lot. of big-time players, including their quarterback. I don't know. We'll see. It will. I get your point, Jay. You're not wrong. It could. But that's why, I mean, Texas risks it by scheduling these games. And they should get the benefit of doing it or the hurt from doing it. Texas scheduled a big game and won it. A&M scheduled a big game and lost it. You know, to the victor goes the spoils. That's my opinion. And so you got to win those games. It could screw them, but will it really? If you're, I mean, look, I don't think it will personally next year. You're going to have to wait and see. Florida's going to be a hard game next year. Georgia will be a hard game. A&M probably will be difficult. Oklahoma should have a quarterback by then and an offensive scheme. Next year's a tough schedule for the Longhorns.
All right. Tell us about Flat Creek, Bobby.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll do that. Flat Creek Estate Winery is just minutes from town. I tell you what, guys, if y'all are looking for something to do on Friday, you know, a lot of you guys have time off in Austin there and don't have anything to do on a Friday after a big Thanksgiving, go take a trip out to Flat Creek Estate Winery. It's just minutes from town, and they've won award after award this year for their vintage wine, Super Texan. Super Texan is now available at your local Specs, so you can give it a try there. Flat Creek is also a gorgeous venue with barbecues and wine tastings every single weekend. It's perfect for a day date with your significant other. That's Flat Creek Estate Winery. We appreciate Neil, Eva, and Sean, those people out there that help support us here at On Texas Football. Give it a try. The Super Texan, I'm told that is actually selling as well as just about any wine out there right now. So give it a try. Super Texan, Flat Creek Estate Winery.
Hey, by the way, we were talking about Ohio State. They're going to lose 8 or 9 starters off their defense. I was looking at their updated 2 deep. 8 or 9, their entire front four. And now they have good players. It's Ohio State. They're like Georgia. They've been recruiting top 5 classes. Maybe not on the Georgia level. I'm not saying that, but top 5 classes for a freaking decade now. And then they only lose 1 on the offense, probably 2 on the offensive line. Donovan Jackson will go pro. Obviously, quarterback, lose their tight end. Running backs will go pro. Emeka Buka will go pro. So they're going to lose a lot off that team, especially defensively with starters and experience.
Well, we have a super chat here from Lockin' Horns. Thank you, Lockin' Horns. And they ask, or they say, "Happy Thanksgiving, guys, and hook 'em." How would you guys rank the importance of, number 1, recruiting talent, 2, player development, and 3, scheming to optimize your talent as keys to long-term success?
I think you nailed it. If you can't recruit them, you really have to. You're facing an uphill battle with development if you can't recruit the talent level and you need in the SEC. I think you hit it. It's 1, 2, 3 in that order. I mean, if you don't develop the talent you bring in, it doesn't really matter what your scheme is. I think you hit the nail on the head, Locking Horns. It's in that order for me.
See, I would probably put it 2-1. I would probably put it player development, then talent, then scheme. And here's why I would say that, Jerry. So many of these guys are so close to ability. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not talking about the Ryan Wingos of the world who are clearly a different talent level piece. So many of the guys on Texas's roster could also play for Georgia, could also play for A&M, and vice versa, right? So there's a lot. As long as you're recruiting in that category, it's about who develops them the best and who puts them in the scheme. So it's I might go 2, 1, 3. You went 1, 2, 3 on that list. I'm just different. I think that Texas right now is recruiting a caliber of player that can play anywhere. And there are a handful of schools doing that. So then the focus becomes development and scheme, right, Jerry? So to your point, once recruiting is a given or talent acquisition is a given, I could see it a couple different ways, I guess.
And Jackson Arnold's agent, thank you for the super chat, says, "Guess the starting offense next year." That's a loaded question.
That's a really cheap super chat if you're getting 20% of that NIL from Jackson Arnold.
Arch Manning, you agree? We agree on that one. Trey
Yes.
Wisner, agree on that one. Tight end 1 and 2, Nyblack, and if he's back, and Jordan Washington, maybe Spencer Shannon if one of those two is a better inline guy. Wide receiver, if you think Bond and Golden are gone, Wingo and Moore for sure.
To be determined.
Who the third guy is TBD. I agree with you. Offensive line, let's just say we go Gooseby at left tackle, Nato at left guard, and then Connor Robertson or
Daniel Cruz.
Or Daniel Cruz or Cole Hudson at center, because don't forget he might get a shot. Right guard right now, I think, would be Cole Hudson or him at center. And then right tackle, Brandon Baker. That maybe Jaden Chapman finds his way in there somehow.
Yeah, I think Jordan Washington will start at tight end.
I'm with you.
Actually, and I'm saying if, because these kids have to sign. I think Nick Townsend may end up being 2. I think that highlight of him.
Wow.
I think he can come in. I think Nick Townsend can come in and do everything Juan Davis did because he's so physical from day one. But then you throw 10-8-5 with it at 245 pounds.
I got to say this. Special shout out to Juan Davis, by the way. I shared that video with y'all on that long drive, and I shared it with Bob Shipley and Brian Irwin, too, on the lunch with the coach. I talked to him about it, and then I sent them the video of it. Juan Davis literally decleats somebody, hits him so hard on that long drive. It was an outside linebacker that had walked up to the line of scrimmage. Juan Davis put his helmet right in the chest plate, and that kid went, it's like his whole torso went concave, when Juan popped him, and he literally displaced him 2.5, 3 yards out of the hole and took him off his cleats. It was a hell of a game. I mean, it was a hell of a block. Congrats to Juan.
Colin, are y'all going to be live from Dixie Chicken? Yes, and Johnny Manziel's going to be signing Texas helmets where he really wanted to go.
All right, Jack. Thank you, Jack. He says, thank God for OTF and that I'm a Longhorn.
Thank you, Jack. I hope you're doing well, man.
Appreciate that, Jack. And then Blake here says, Bobby, tell Del Conte that if you're going to play in Texas, it needs to be our Dixieland delight at games going forward. Was electric at the Kentucky game.
I will say this. I don't think I need to tell Del Conte anything about creating a venue that's exciting. I mean, literally. I don't know that I need. They do a pretty darn good job of lighting that thing up. I do love that song, but I can't tell you. There's a number of different ways that could go.
And then we have a super chat here from another super chat from Jason. Thank you again, Jason. He says, what about Isaiah Bond? I really think he should have sat last week because he doesn't look as explosive. We really need him healthy.
Well, he's not on the injury report that Texas put out last night at all. Neither is DeAndre Moore, by the way. Yeah. So that means they're playing, period. Sark feels good about where they're at. Are they 100% healthy? That we can't say. But as you look at the injury report, both Texas and Texas A&M put out, we talked about this earlier, yours listed as probable. That's really the only big one of note for the Longhorns that was where we're waiting on. Derek Williams and C.J. Baxter obviously starters prior to the season, but they're out for the season. Look at A&M's list.
The last two guys. The last two guys are big. Will Lee is the corner, big, tall corner that transferred in from Kansas State. He's been a big piece of their puzzle. Chase Basantes, starting, I think, right guard or left guard, Jerry. He played a little bit last week against Auburn. They're thinking, when we talked to Billy Lucci, he was thinking that he was going to be able to play this week unless he retweaked his ankle, I believe. We'll wait and see what all that means, but something to watch for. They will re-release this tomorrow or tonight as well. So the SEC has you do it on
Wednesday and Thursday. So we'll get another updated list from A&M for sure. I don't know what might happen with the Texas list.
I'm just glad Elko's not on that after his press conference. All right, let's see. Any Texas commits visit? I was worried he was sweating so much it was going to have a body cramp. Are there any Texas commits visiting the game this weekend, King Kunta? Nick Townsend is scheduled to be there for the game this weekend. Obviously, a target, Michael Fasusi, scheduled to be there this weekend. We're going to monitor to see who he goes to that game with. He went to Austin with his dad and sister. Is it the dad and sister again at A&M? We'll see. There'll be some juniors there. I mean, look, if a Chris Stewart at Shadow Creek shows up at that game, I mean, I would go to that game. I mean, if somebody offered me a ticket to go to that game as a recruit, I'd go to that game if I live in Texas. And by the way, there was a super chat at Blake. I don't know if you could bring it up on the recruiting impacts of the game. Might be a good time to hit that.
Yes, definitely. Let me find it here because we do have quite a few of them. Here we go. It's from Arnold Smithart. Thank you, Arnold. He says, Jerry, please emphasize the importance of the A&M game in recruiting. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yeah, so I think for the young kids, this is a huge game in recruiting because it's been a long time in this state since, kids have had those conversations that may like one more than the other, and it feeds into a locker room and battle lines start getting drawn. It's been a long time since that's happened in recruiting in this state because the game hadn't been played. And these kids growing up, they don't know. Their dads or parents may tell them about it, or an uncle that went to one of the schools. But I mean, like in the Trey Zunz press conference, he may be the only kid in this game that truly knows it. Quinn might a little bit, but Zun's a family of A&M grads, and he went to the game a lot as a kid. But he was 9 the last time the game was played, so he really doesn't even know. But these 26, 27, handful of 28 kids that are at this game, they're going to walk away, I think, saying, that was really interesting, because they don't know it in this state. They haven't known it. And I think it's going to create that rivalry in recruiting again and take it to a level it just hasn't been in over a decade, Bobby.
I'm ready for it because I think that this state has needed this game to attract recruits like this late in the season, right? Because it gives you a jumping off point for your next recruiting class. It won't necessarily make a decision, but for 1 or 2 kids late in the year like this, or even influence it. But for the next class, what's going to be the last game on their mind, Jerry?
Yeah.
Texas A&M. Every year, the last game they go to, big one, will be Texas A&M. I want to say this before I know we have some more chat questions to get to. A week ago when I was at the co-op, Texas was getting ready to play Kentucky, and the co-op gives out stickers. And I don't know if they're open today, but I'm sure they're open tomorrow. But this is the sticker they were giving out last week. I want everybody to be able to see this. All bark, no bite. He's petting the Longhorns, petting a little collie on the head there. Y'all go check. I think they're still giving these away this week as well. But I was a little reluctant to mention it last week because Texas was playing Kentucky, and I'm superstitious, so I don't count my chickens before they hatch. But long story short, even the co-op getting into it, a lot of spirit out there for this game. I think that and everything about it impacts recruiting in some form or fashion, because if it is the game in the state, the end of football season, that's how, no offense to Devin Sanchez, who's going to Ohio State. If Texas A&M was happening every year, I don't know if Devin Sanchez so easily goes out of state. Just going to put that out there.
And people in the chat could bring this up. I mean, when was the last time this game had so much meaning too? Has there been one? I mean, from a football standpoint, from a recruiting standpoint, there's been some. But from a football standpoint, has there? I mean, even the year Ricky broke the record against A&M, right? They went to the Big 12 championship game.
Yeah, A&M did. That was their last championship of any kind.
This game, I don't think this game's obviously in the modern era has never been played with this much on the line for both teams. I mean, Texas, we believe Texas in the playoff, right? So, but for A&M, they have to win out to make the playoff. But then there's also the thing of in this Texas game, which, look, if you lose the game, you're in the playoff. If you win the game, you go to the SEC championship, get another crack at Georgia. If you win the game, I also think, Bobby, that locks up hosting round one, even if you lose to Georgia. If you lose this game, you may end up going on the road and playing in some 30-degree place. You just with a snow drift, you just don't know.
Do you think Texas drops down to 9 if they lose? That's a big drop.
It depends on what everybody else does around them.
And how bad of a loss.
It's potential. It has potential.
Okay.
I mean, because here's the thing. And I'm just saying the playoff ranking, if you lose the game, are you better? Is Texas better than Penn State? I think we'd all agree they are. But are they going to be ranked ahead of Penn State with 2 losses if Penn State has 1? No, I don't think they will be. So what is that? If Notre Dame wins, so it's easy to see a scenario where you get pushed down. The other bad thing in a scenario like that is they wouldn't. I think that, and I know that one of the playoff rankings has Georgia and Tennessee playing in an 8-9 game. If they can stay away from that, I think they will. But Texas and Tennessee didn't play this year, so that could be a potential 8-9 type of game too.
Yeah,
I
think Texas. I could be wrong, but like Texas is not going to drop below Indiana with a loss. What are they right now? 9 or 10? I don't know their exact number, but I wouldn't see Texas dropping below Indiana.
Indiana is 11, I believe.
Okay, so maybe there's some room there.
If Miami beats Syracuse, right? I'm just saying where the rankings would fall. If Miami beats Syracuse, which I think it's a tough game, and they don't need to have Donovan McNabb bobblehead day to make it a tough game. Cam Ward will make it a tough game with turnovers more than likely. But you look at it. And there you see it. I mean, look, could you fall to 10? Probably not. But if you do, you're playing in Notre Dame, and who knows what the weather holds for you, right? Yeah. You're not going to fall to 12, but could you fall? Probably not fall to 11. And you just don't know, though. You shouldn't. But that is the one thing that's on the line with this game is if you win this game, you host, even if you lose the SEC championship game. I'm not sure Texas hosts if they lose this game. That's going to be the question. Is how far do you fall if you lose?
Crazy to me that Arizona State is the #1 seed from the Big 12, and they would be ranked 12th in this.
Yeah.
And an SMU team that was in Conference USA last year moves to good year for Rhett Lashley and those guys.
I still think if Boise beats Oregon State, they have to play UNLV again. That game was tight. I think if Arizona State were to win out and Boise were to win out, I'm not sure that Arizona State wouldn't. How many wins in a row would that be? I know Boise's had wins, but that's in G5. I'm not sure Arizona State wouldn't be the 4 and
go over them. Yeah, it's possible.
Michael Williams, thank you for your super chat. Michael says, I think everyone knew Anthony Hill and Simmons would have impacts as freshmen. But what current commits have a chance to have similar impacts? Happy Thanksgiving.
That's a great question. I actually wrote that article on OnTexasFootball.com this morning and just kind of gave some thoughts on. I put it in like 4 different categories. Could play a lot, will play some, may play a little, and then will probably redshirt or needs a year physically. And that's the 24 guys committed. The one guy that I thought has a chance to right now, when things can change because of injury, how guys do in the spring, how quickly they take to strength and conditioning. Does Texas hit a couple of guys in the portal at that position, which might push them down some snaps? But Jonah Williams is a kid for me that's, depending on what Michael Taft does, somebody at safety is going to have a chance because you lose Makuba. Derek Williams is coming off an ACL, so he won't be there for spring. Right now, Jonah's not going to be – he'll sit in on team meetings, but he's not going to go through spring. But you still have to see how Derek Williams' knee comes back early in the season next year, Bobby. So there's some things at safety, depending on what Michael Taft does, that could lead a Jonah Williams down a path of having a shot to play a lot early.
Don't you think the D tackles have to, one or two of them?
I think they,
unless it just depends, I guess, who they get in the portal.
Right.
I
mean,
look,
they're clearly redshirting Tia Savea.
Yeah, but I don't. Okay, so that gives them 3.
What if Lole comes back?
No, I don't think he can.
I don't think he can either. But well, there's some guys that can get that. I can't remember what the NCAA is calling it, but he has
the 6th year.
I doubt he does. Just go take a shot in the league, man.
Yeah. My point is, I don't think they have 4 right now because Aaron Bryant hasn't really stepped back up. I mean, they're playing Alex January and Sadir Mitchell over Aaron Bryant right now, which tells me Aaron Bryant he may be in the portal. I hate to put names out there, but that would make sense. Not saying he should or shouldn't, by the way. So my wonder in that regard is one of these defensive tackles. I think one of them is going to have to play.
Oh no, I think they're both going to get at least Alex January time. Probably.
Okay. Yeah, I think maybe
even likely to play. Yeah,
for
sure. I think Lance Jackson will play. He's going to be too talented not to play on, even if it's some minor. I could see Grayson Littleton playing some and like a little bit like like Wardell Mack has, late in games. I think you're going to see a lot of that because I just don't think these kids Texas is looking at these guys as 5-year players. I don't think they're recruiting players. The level they're recruiting, I don't think they're sitting there looking at many of these guys as 5-year players. So, getting them on, even if you preserve a red shirt in some cases, if you don't play 4 games, but there's going to be quite a few guys that are going to have, I'll tell you this, and this is saying something in this class. I think the highest level of football intelligence in this class, in a Cedric Baxter type of way, is Caleb Chester. But again, Santana Wilson's looked really good as a redshirt year. Could a Caleb Chester break in a small role potentially? I think that all depends on if Texas is content with what they have or do they go to the portal. But I'm here to tell you, Caleb Chester with that football intelligence, he might make a push a little bit to get on the field. Because Manny, and he's not. I'm not saying he's the level of Manny Muhammad, but Manny Muhammad's football intelligence was off the charts too, like Cedric Baxter. Those guys seem to find a way to get on the field more than you think.
Somebody just sent me a text, and I'm just flabbergasted by this. The Aggies are claiming 120,000 people will be at midnight yell on Friday night. You think they don't care about this game?
I'm telling you. Rivalry? I think home field's worth 7 to 10 points.
120,000 is what they're saying.
Yeah.
Just to go watch, I don't know, cheerleaders. I don't even know what those are. Yell leaders. Well, it's cringy to me, but my point is that's how much folks are thinking about this game right now in Aggie land.
All right, El Maestro here with the super chat. And El Maestro says, hello, Jerry and Bobby. I've been dying to ask you guys about this comparison, Michael Taft to Bill Bates.
I'll let Bobby take that one.
Yeah, because I remember Bill Bates. You don't. Well, so Bill Bates was one of the better special teams guys in the NFL for a period of time, and also played some safety. Taft is more of a true safety than Bates, in my opinion, and I've seen them both. Whereas Bates actually is faster as a player and more stockily built. But there are some similarities. I like Taft's intellect isn't the right way, instinct for the game quite a bit. Like I didn't, obviously Bill Bates was really smart player other than getting run over by Herschel Walker on the goal line back when he played at Tennessee. I think Taft in coverage, and I would say this about a lot of kids now, Bill Bates didn't see these really, he saw like the West Coast offense, right, in its first iteration. Nowadays, Michael Taft's seen so much more than everybody else, than all all people of the 80s would have ever seen from a passing offense, if that makes sense. Like just more iterations, more rub routes, more cross, all these different things that have occurred in the passing game. And I think Taft digests that and feels that really, really well.
Hey, question for the chat. Anybody think John Tay Cook will be at midnight yell practice Friday night?
Maybe for the Aggies. Maybe for the Aggies.
Moving on. Tubin, Texas says, my favorite player in this game's history was Ricky. Amazing how he overcame his anxiety doing interviews, wearing his helmet to broadcasting. Great dude.
You know, who is Rick? I saw Ricky, Ricky's junior year. John Mackovic was going to get fired, and it was clear that Texas was the lesser team between them and A&M. And Ricky went in there to A&M, and it was pouring down rain. I mean, I was soaked head to toe, and I was wearing a poncho. You know, I was still wearing something. And he went in there, and when I tell you he took it to that win on that day, I mean, I know it was a loss, but Ricky really did. He played extraordinarily well in that rivalry. His freshman year, he made a run that helped win that game. After I think it was a cutback run that he made where he literally like side hurdled a defender about 15 yards into it. Ricky had, yes, he did. He had a great career against A&M. A great career against A&M. And I would say of everybody that James Brown had a great career against A&M. Who else had a great career against A&M? Just if you're just talking about A&M games, Ricky, James Brown, I thought.
What was Chris Sims' record against A&M?
Well, but everybody's record against A&M. Well, 3-1, I think, because he lost the bonfire game as a freshman. It's a good question. 25 years ago, by the way.
Benson for sure.
Yeah, Cedric Benson had great games.
Yeah.
Benson rushing for 270 at Kyle Field. That's a great one, Blake. Thanks for bringing that up. By the way, it has been 25 years since the bonfire tragedy. That is something that we should all keep in our minds, by the way, too.
We got more super chats here. Jerry, this one for you from Kelvin. And Kelvin says, hey, Jerry, what would make a recruit not be able to sign in December?
They're younger. I'll answer for Jerry.
There you go. That's it. All right. Jose Rodriguez. Thank you, Jose. He says, happy Thanksgiving, gents. I'm grateful for all the coverage that On Texas Football provides. This is the premier Texas sports YouTube channel.
Thank you so much, Jose. Thanks for watching, everybody. We appreciate y'all very, very much. Y'all don't know how much we love what we do, and glad y'all are here with us. It's Thanksgiving, man. Let's go have a food coma. That's what I call it in our family. Whenever you eat Thanksgiving and then all you want to do is sleep the rest of the day, it's because you've induced a food coma. All your blood goes away from your head and into your stomach to help you digest, I think.
By the way, everybody's in the chat's favorite. Leon O'Neal will surely be at the yell practice Friday night, but I'm just telling you, he runs 4.78, so he probably needs to leave now to get there. Jerry is just we need to have
today.
Hey, Jerry is no shame right now.
What's in that cup?
Yeah. Unsweet tea, no lemon.
Jeff Carey says, thanks to OTF, even you, Jerry Hamilton, really enjoy your opinions and expertise. Everyone gets a virtual hug.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate you being part of OTF, man.
Oh, man. All right. And Bobby, I would appreciate if you would tell folks out there about Rick Valvro and Austin Underground one last time.
I absolutely will do that. Rick and his team have been sponsoring On Texas Football for a couple of for all year right now, and we really appreciate him and his group very, very much. Since 2004, Austin Underground, Rick's company, has specialized in difficult underground commercial installations. The team's engineering background gives Austin Underground the ability to perform work other firms often consider too risky. Rick and his team offer an end-to-end client experience as well, including seamless communication, budgeting, staffing, and top-notch trade partners. And most importantly, they produce solid quality work each and every time. That's Austin Road, as well as their Austin Underground, as well as their sister company, Texas Road. Thank you, Rick, and your team.
And just a couple more before we wrap it up and call it a day here. Chris Denman, thank you for your super chat. He says, happy Thanksgiving on Texas football. Any word on who Texas will target in the transfer portal after the season?
Do we want to give specific names at this time? There are a couple that we've heard, but I think I need to reserve that until they actually enter the portal. I think that's fair. You agree with that, Jerry?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Chris, yes and no. Make sure they go in the portal first. And then I think it's fair game.
And then two more guys. This one here from King Me. He says, comparing position groups on Saturday, how many does Texas win head-to-head?
Ooh. Hopefully quarterback. I think running back is probably going to be, Weiser's played so good, and Texas has multiple. I would give a push at running back because I love Amari Daniels. I really do. I think he's a hard-nosed kid, man. Tight end, Texas at this point, although A&M has a good set of tight ends. Receivers, definitely Texas. Left tackle, Texas. Left guard, maybe a push if Basantes plays. Center, Texas, even though they've got a 3-year starter from Utah that transferred in, right, Jerry?
Mm-hmm.
Right guard, Texas. Right tackle, Texas. Because you'd want Cam Williams over Reuben Fothery, right, Jerry? Even though Fothery may be a high pick himself one day. A lot on offense, I think. On defense, I'll let Jerry try to break down Texas versus Texas A&M on defense.
Oh, man. That I think Texas' entire secondary. I'm not saying in 3 years, maybe at one spot that A&M doesn't have a young kid's really good, but I think all those spots right now headed into this game, at least, especially what we've seen the last couple of weeks. Linebacker, Anthony Hill, obviously. Inside linebacker, probably slight lean A&M with York.
One more year experience.
Yeah, one more year experience for sure. Edge play, that's interesting. The highest drafted guy as far as upperclass will be Scorton.
But Stewart, some people are putting him in the first round for them too now. Shamar Stewart.
He's more of a 5'3", but him and Shamar Turner, you give the edge to A&M there on defensive line. Now, what they do with those guys is a different question for me. That's where I'd go. I think Texas edges as a whole, though, I would take. But A&M may have the highest drafted player of the. Will have the highest drafted player of the upperclassmen at that position.
What about defensive tackle?
I think A&M has the edge there,
even with Alfred Collins in that spot.
But yes, but the problem is, like with the Auburn game, they twisted. They ran the ET twist so much in that game that almost like they take those guys out of plays, so they're not going to make as many plays. If you're sitting there twisting the tackles outside the Auburn tackles, I mean, it's almost like you're taking those guys some of what they can do out of play at times. So it's tough. That's tough. If they just lined them up and played them straight up more, I think those guys would probably have better stat sheets than they do. I think the NFL is going to view those guys differently than what people that are watching them on some Saturdays are going to view them. If that makes sense.
Okay, guys, this will be the last one for today. And from Brandon Huey, we're going to end on a Thanksgiving question. Is it stuffing or dressing? What do you call it?
For me, it's, oh, man, I didn't even thought about that. I think dressy. Turkey and dressing. Yeah, for me, I don't know. I'm not a big turkey guy. Like, I tried to get my wife to get a ham. I know that may be sacrilege to some, but
No, the glazed honey baked ham is unbelievable.
It's good, but it's still no turkey.
see,
I love turkey.
yes.
I love turkey and dressing.
I will say somebody wrote on here early about turducken. Huge fan of turducken.
Never had it.
Oh yeah. Like I would do something special for that. That is good. That's good stuff.
Jerry, what do you call it? Stuffing or dressing?
Neither.
What do you call it?
Huh?
What do you call it then?
Oh. I guess dressing. I don't know. This is my first Thanksgiving ever. I'll let you know how it goes.
Oh,
Okay, guys.
unbelievable.
That's going to do it
Unbelievable.
for this very special Thanksgiving edition of Coffee and Football presented by Rick Volvo and Austin Underground. We want to thank them along with Tile, Hargrove Roofing, and Flat Creek all for sponsoring today's show. Bobby, obviously it is, of course, a holiday, so I know the plans are a little bit different today, but what can people expect today and throughout this weekend on our
Yeah, we've still got our preview coming up later today, and we've got Jerry doing the SEC show later tonight where he's talk a little bit about some things he's seen around the league. But there will be no winning drive today with Rod, CJ, and Coach Shipley. We'll return tomorrow morning with our full schedule. We've got tomorrow morning, we got coffee and football, and then we also have the afternoon live stream. Rod will join Jerry and myself, Rod Babers, that is, join Jerry and myself at 1 o'clock tomorrow. And then we've got a bunch of stuff coming on Saturday. Obviously, we started off with the Saturday conversation. Then we have the Texas tailgate. We have the Watch With Us, as well as the post-game show. Brian Robeson will be back with us for the post-game show. And hopefully he may be able to come on with us tomorrow morning. And I'll announce this now. We are expected to have the last winning quarterback over Texas A&M on tomorrow morning. So a last Longhorn winning quarterback over Texas A&M on tomorrow morning as well. So join us for Coffee and Football if you would. I hope everybody has a happy Thanksgiving. It's been a great time getting here. Texas 10-1. Longhorns back in the talk of college football prominence, and they're earning it in a new league against new teams that maybe thought and looked down their nose a little bit at Texas just 2-3 years ago.
Yep.
Just desserts, in my opinion.
Well, we all hope you have a very happy Thanksgiving. We will be back same time, same place tomorrow, as Bobby said, with a very special guest. So be sure to catch us then. And for Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton, I'm Blake Monroe, and we'll see y'all tomorrow.